Buenos días, buenas tardes o buenas noches, donde quiera que se encuentren. Es un placer darles la bienvenida a esta charla para celebrar el Día Internacional de la Mujer, en la que se debatirá sobre el papel, los retos y las oportunidades de las mujeres y las niñas en la innovación y en la educación superior. Por favor, tengan en cuenta que este evento contará con interpretación inglés-español y que pueden cambiar el idioma haciendo clic en la opción del menú en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Me llamo Sara y formo parte del equipo de comunicación del Instituto Internacional de la UNESCO para la Educación Superior en América Latina y el Caribe, y ESALC. Hoy me acompaña mi colega Julia en la conducción de esta charla. Adelante, Julia.
Gracias, Sara. Hola a todas y todos. Hi, everyone. I'm Julia. I'm working at UNESCO ESALC to promote follow-up works on the Transforming Education Summit. So a little bit of the background on the Transforming Education Summit. It was held in September 2022 during the 77th United Nations General Assembly under the Secretary General's Our Common Agenda. The test stressed the need to transform education for present and future generations, counting on participation, engagement, and solidarity from all educational stakeholders, and with a special emphasis on the leading role of young people.
Así que como parte de los trabajos de seguimiento para transformar la educación, el encuentro de hoy reforzará diferentes prioridades de acción a través de una mirada sensible al género, desvelando caminos innovadores de niñas y mujeres procedentes de distintas regiones y países con sus propias perspectivas sobre la innovación y la educación. Esperamos que todas las jóvenes y mujeres puedan sentirse representadas e inspiradas por las historias compartidas, recordándonos la importancia de la colaboración entre iguales y de las redes de solidaridad entre nosotras.
This fireside chat may not be fired up by actual fires, but rather by the inner passion we all share to promote gender equality among women and girls in relation to higher education. So to get started, let's watch a video led by some of the storytellers that will join us today. Please, let's see.
On International Women's Day 2023, we want to highlight how girls and women are leading the way in innovative learning all over the world, through technological and non-technological strategies. As learners, teachers, parents, colleagues, scientists, policymakers, they inspire us to advance equitable, quality, and meaningful education that leaves no one behind. Let's hear some of these stories.
Hello, I'm Rachel from Uganda. Growing up with a disability, I was driven by the belief and enthusiasm for a more equitable and accessible education for girls and young women with disabilities. And as a student, I developed badges with a slogan, Include Me Too, to create an inclusive and a sustaining learning environment for marginalized groups in my university.
Hello, my name is Sofia and I'm a member of the UNESCO SDG for Youth Network. As one of the first women in my family to attend university, my involvement in student associations, teacher-student collaborations, and peer learning opportunities were key for my self-confidence and to not only recognize, but to believe in my own abilities. Do you have a similar story? Please join our conversation about women and girls, innovation, and higher education.
Hi everyone, my name is Chisomo and I'm from Malawi. As an innovator in the edtech space, I've come to the conclusion that making simple mobile technologies more accessible has the power to bridge the digital divide gap that currently exists.
Thanks to Rachel, Sophia, and Chisomo for sharing their stories and inspiring other girls and women to do the same. Wherever stage you are in your own educational journey, we want to hear from you too. So please join the dialogue and share your story through any of UNESCO ESALC's official channels. And please join the Fireside Chat on March 6th to engage and celebrate with other female innovators.
Okay. Let me now switch to English. Dear participants, as illustrated by our dear Sophia, Rachel, and Chisomo, today is about celebrating the role of girls and women in innovation, for innovation, and with innovation, without losing sense of gender barriers, biases, and inequalities, and how to tackle them. Through the life stories of our guests, we will get awareness of concrete, innovative paths in getting access to higher education, innovative learning practices to get through education, innovative learning practices that enhance their experiences as learners, both inside and outside the classroom, and experiences of studying and working to design new technology and broader forms of innovation. So Julia, can you tell us a little bit more about our participants, please?
Sure. Thanks, Sarah. So thanks to our kind partners in the Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, UNESCO Division of Education 2030, United Nations High Commissioners for Refugees, UN Women, the United Nations Girls Education Initiative, UNGAI, Save the Children, and 1 Million Teachers, we have been able to reunite a group of very inspiring female innovators from different generations. Together, they represent all 5 UNESCO regions and quite a stretch of innovative experiences as a secondary schooler entering higher education, all the way to a professor already in higher education. They are all learners, educators, and advocates. So please, a round of applause and self-applause to all of us before we proceed.
Let this applause be an invitation to all storytellers and girls and women in the audience to enjoy this session as more than a formal event, as a learning experience in itself, one that is dialogic, engaging, and based on peer-to-peer collaboration. So please feel free to share your views and experiences on innovative learning and transforming education. This is an open chat box. There is an open chat box and an open mic for everyone willing to present yourselves, typing or live.
Yes, that's the spirit, Sarah. So to get this fireside chat started, all storytellers and audience, why don't we break some ice? Yes. Let us reflect together on a few igniting questions through the Menti application. I don't know if all of you have already used Menti. So for those who have never used it before, we have 2 options. When using your personal computer, you must access menti.com and submit the code that will appear on the screen in a moment. Or if you have your telephone with you, you can just scan the QR code and it will lead you to the survey on Menti. So let's see it. Please, the next slide. So here we have the first question.
Okay, so let's start with the first question. Have you encountered female role models or mentors who have inspired you throughout your education? Have you encountered female role models or mentors who have inspired you throughout your education?
I didn't get the QR code. Could you get it?
No.
Yes.
That's
Great.
the code.
There it is.
Guess we can see the results already. I really hope we can all identify at least a girl or woman that has inspired us throughout our educational journeys. But we know that sometimes having role models, female role models, is actually something that is not recognized in our society. So I guess it's really good to see very high numbers in yes. If you can share through the chat, if your role models are public figures or if you can share their names, it would be awesome to read your messages on the chat. And then we can proceed to the second question. Sarah?
Okay, now let's move to the second question. In a word or two, please describe the traditional practice of education in your location country. In a word or two, describe the traditional practice of education in your location country.
Are we done? Let's see results.
In a word or two, describe the traditional practice of education in your location country.
The idea here is to have like a baseline of how education in our locations, our countries have been led since we were little girls until now, and to see how they we find commonalities or differences. But I guess the results are not appearing, not because we didn't answer, but for some reason, some technical reason, they are not appearing on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe we can get the results later.
Yes, sure.
And do we want to go to the next question to see if it works?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. Please, in a word or two, describe how you want to innovate education in your location country. How you want to innovate education in your location or country. Just in case you have some difficulties, go to menti.com and enter the code that appears on the screen, or scan the QR code.
Great, now we have answers. Oh, I really like the one cancel examination. Seems really innovative for me. E-learning, incorporate emerging tech, social practice, developing, investing mocks, by creating a book club. This is really interesting. This is something I guess we all could do with our friends. Student-based. This is one of the lines of our project in UNESCO, Young People in Transforming Education project. So yeah, thank you for all your inputs. Should we proceed to the next one?
Yes, and the last question, in your experience, what are the main challenges and obstacles for girls and women to succeed in innovative learning? We have multiple choices. In your experience, what are the main challenges and obstacles for girls and women to succeed in innovative learning? Gender inequalities and stereotypes, inadequate laws and policy, lack of personal health and family resources, inadequate public services and infrastructure, safety concerns, and others.
And if your answer is others, please write the other option here on the chat so we can also have a register of it. Yeah, the first one has more answers at this point, gender inequalities and stereotypes. That's actually one of the reasons why we are all gathered here today. Let's give a little bit more time for people to answer. Gender stereotypes keeps rising. Inadequate public services and infrastructure is actually has the second place. And then inadequate laws and policy and lack of personal family resources. As we know, many of those challenges actually intersect. So we many times have women and girls going through intersectional challenges to join education. And we are all going to reflect on that from now on this Fireside Chat. So I guess we can now move on. You can feel always invited to share your thoughts on the chat. Keep participating. So as we can see, although we have seen significant advancements in the education of girls and women over the past decades, there is still barriers such as poverty, discrimination, violence, cultural attitudes, lack of visibility and representativeness as well. And they keep limiting our access to quality education.
Exactly. And after the COVID-19 pandemic, with the current pace of technological transformation, the digital divide is further exacerbating these barriers. And this is why spaces like our Fire Chat are necessary for girls and women to express our own challenges and our own solutions in accessing quality education and innovative learning, stressing both our singularity as individuals and common challenges that cross borders. So without further details, let's begin our storytelling journey, hearing from the inspiring stories of our 10 invitees. Julia, can you tell us more about our first speaker?
Sure, Sarah. I actually am really, really glad to invite Chu Ying Hu as our first storyteller. since you just mentioned the COVID-19 pandemic and its groundbreaking effects in our societies, both for bad and some things that have already made us reflect on new challenges regarding technological access. So Chu Ying is a member of Transforming Education, hosted by Yungai. She's the project lead at the coronavirus visualization team, created to analyze COVID-19 misinformation and combat the infodemic. And she works at a public health incubator based at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health as well. So let's hear from her and on this and other projects. And please, Chu Ying, the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. I just want to start by saying I am so thrilled to be here today, and I feel honored to be speaking alongside such remarkable women. So, hi, I'm Chu Ying Hua, a 16-year-old youth activist from Canada. I'm excited to share my journey and how I got involved in data science, activism, and the UN's Girls' Education Initiative. So, during a recent interview, my interviewer said to me, "Wow, you seem to have it all figured out. I can't help but compare where I was at 16 to you." And I've heard this comment a few times now, and it's kind of funny to me because I really don't have it all figured out. Around 2 years ago, I was like many of the girls in this audience, a typical student working to get high marks while balancing extracurriculars. But when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, everything changed for me. So when lockdown hit, school was in a way taken away from me. And I realized that prior, my identity had been tied to my scholastic achievements. I was constantly striving for perfection, kind of haunted by a crippling fear of failure. And at home during lockdown, I was forced to confront my fear of the unknown. One day, a friend told me about a nonprofit, the coronavirus visualization team, that used data science to combat COVID-19 misinformation. I decided to join initially on outreach and writing initiatives because I was worried that I didn't have any experience with data science, but eventually I decided to get involved with the research. With guidance from my mentor, Dr. Lingbao Liu from the Center of Geographic Analysis based at Harvard, and then also the director, Dr. Wendy Guang, who is an incredible, inspirational woman. I undertook a project that mapped spatial disparities in access to healthcare. So just to be frank, during the first few months, I truly had no idea what was going on. I would nod my head while they were saying technical terms, but I was completely lost. It was really through the support of my mentor, Dr. Lingbao Liu, who carefully explained every line of code. And it was him who encouraged me to continue going. And without his support, I probably would have given up. And that's what I wanted to talk about here. We need to support all young girls in their pursuit of innovation, regardless of their starting point. In my country, so Canada, we generally praise young girls who show extraordinary talent for STEM or academics early on. But we need to start empowering children from marginalized backgrounds who didn't have access to the same resources, who started at a different point. The ones who might be the first one in their family to attend higher education. Our current education system in Canada forces children to memorize and regurgitate information quickly, failing to accommodate different learning styles and speeds. Personally, in regards to data science, it took me around 4 months, that's almost like half a term at school, to finally grasp what was going on. But my mentor's guidance and also the purpose behind my project was what kept me going. So my project aimed to map spatial disparities in access to eating disorder treatment, which was an issue I deeply cared about because I had struggled with disordered eating in the past, and my close friend was hospitalized for her eating disorder. So starting this research made me realize that I had the power to make a difference, to improve the lives of young girls and ensure that they wouldn't have to recover alone. So now I am the executive director of the nonprofit I previously mentioned, now called Co-Visualize, which is a global NGO that aims to make data science more accessible to youth worldwide. Data science allowed me to embrace my fears and stop running away from them. Our current education system in Canada is broken, encouraging toxic workaholic behaviors and shaming children who have unique learning styles. We need to start teaching young girls to be leaders, activists, change makers. We need to teach them to embrace their mistakes and grow from them. We need to stop running away from problems and run towards them, because without problems, there would be no innovation. I'm calling on all the young girls and women on this call to embrace your fears, your weaknesses, your vulnerabilities. Your vulnerabilities give you invaluable perspective, incredible resilience, and remarkable empathy. So go out there and make your mark on the world. Be fearless, be curious, and be innovative. The future is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ying. I guess a really important message from your story is purpose and how your advocacy actually connects to your emotional sides and not only to academic results. That's really, really beautiful to hear. So thank you for sharing. And next to you, we will receive another girl, another young woman that really has purpose in her life too. We'll hear from Zuriel Oduwole, who has also started her advocacy at a really young age when she was just 10 years old. And now that she's 20 years old, she has directly addressed over 50,000 young people in 21 countries worldwide, inspiring them about the power of education and being herself an example of what this power can do at a very young age. So Zuriel is a multi-level advocate. She has also sat down with more than 33 presidents and prime ministers to prefer solutions to various socioeconomic problems. So please, a very welcome to Zuriel to take the floor and share her amazing story.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone from Los Angeles. I'm so thankful to be here, to get the opportunity to speak and share the little that I can with you all today. It's good to be at another UNESCO event after, I think, 6 years. The last time I was speaking in Paris at their Women in Media event, we were talking about breaking stereotypes about women, especially when it comes to how we're portrayed in the media. And so that's a lot of what I do, advocacy. And what I've learned or seen in my journey over the past 10 years, something that I still really don't understand, is that we have 2 eyes to see clearer, right? We have 2 ears to hear clearer. We have 2 hands so we can carry higher, and we have 2 legs to run faster. But, imagine someone who says, okay, I have 2 of these things, but I'm going to cover one of them, maybe just an ear, right? And try to go on, live my life like that. It means that their journey is going to be a lot tougher. And that's basically what happens when men deliberately, for reasons best known, exclude women, right? When they exclude our ideas, our creativity, our strengths, our resilience, as Chuying said, from tackling some of the world's biggest problems today, whether it's climate or poverty alleviation, inventing solutions to health issues, and even when it comes to corporate and government leadership roles. About 4 years ago, I was in Accra, Ghana, for a major development initiative. And I was meeting with my friend, who's a gender minister, Honorable Atiko Jaba. And she shared something really profound that to this day has stuck with me. She said that in her country, Ghana, 48% of the population are women. But then the other 52% were born by women. So my question is then, at what point did women begin to lose relevance? And so in spite of the headwinds that we probably will face from many directions, we have to persevere and stay focused and be purpose-driven and hone our craft. Because I truly believe, from what I've seen, excellence still transcends. It transcends any biases, no matter how long for. If you stay consistently good at something and show nothing but excellence, then people would come looking for you. When I was 13 years old, I had an idea as a young filmmaker to teach unemployed girls and young women across the African continent a filmmaking class. So I was self-taught. I learned how to manage a camera, how to edit, and do all those things myself. So I truly believed that if others were given the opportunity, then they could do the same thing. Now, at the time when I first started talking about this idea, everyone said that it made absolutely no sense, right? Because I hadn't been to film school, I was too young to do it. And essentially they were giving me 99 different reasons to not even think of doing it. But all I had to do was find the one reason to do it against those headwinds. So I had my first filmmaking class in Namibia, and just 9 months after that class, one of the students who attended, she actually went out, she borrowed a camera, she filmed in her local neighborhood, and she made her first feature film that she got to shop around to TV networks in her country. So she now got this new skill, one that truly empowers her because she can tell her story, tell her country's story, and then also it's a platform that she can use to amplify her voice. So this is a class I've done in a couple other countries now, places like Ghana, Mexico, Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, and essentially just to give these girls and young women a chance to empower themselves. And, of course, now that all of that's said and done, no one is telling me it can't be done anymore. Everyone's like, oh, filmmaking class, of course, you can do it. Go ahead, right? But so that just goes back to the point that we have to stay purpose-driven and remember that excellence indeed transcends. Back in 2018, I was in Mozambique, and some of you may know that UNICEF had back then said that Mozambique actually had one of the highest rates of child marriage in the world. So I went to Maputo and I sat down with the country's president, Felipe Nyusi. One of the most important things I do whenever I meet with presidents and prime ministers is I try to show myself as an example of what an educated girl can do, especially if they are encouraged and supported. So I went to go sit down with him and talk to him about the issue of child marriage in this country. And then, of course, a week later, I left to come back home to California, but we continued our conversation intensely. And then about a year later, and with the help of many other voices, Mozambique formally and finally outlawed girl marriage in the summer of 2019, I think it was. And, I'm sharing these two examples, the Mozambique one and my filmmaking class, to show why we need to be creative and very innovative in our approach to engaging our world in problem solving. In other words, we need to find new ways to create real and measurable solutions to many of the challenges that we see in our world today. I mean, personally, this is what I think, like this platform, it's a chance for all of us, especially me, to learn from each other's stories, to learn from each other's innovations, and then hopefully work together to create measurable change and measurable difference in the world. So that's just the small, short little story I wanted to share with you all today. And thank you again very, very much for allowing me the time to talk to you all and share part of my simple journey with you all. Thank you guys so, so much.
Thank you very much, Zuriel. It's wonderful to see what you have achieved by believing and giving opportunity for everyone and insisting that excellency transcends. We are glad to count on you to keep inspiring young generations and leaders to promote social change. Sarah, our next speaker has a really interesting story on advocacy, no? That relies on innovation, interdisciplinarity. Isn't that so?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. First of all, I'd like to say a great thank you to all of you and to be sharing this incredible space with so many brilliant young women. So my story is a bit of a complicated one. I initially started off studying nutrition and food science. And then much later on, I ventured into the education technology space where I co-founded an edtech startup. So obviously I didn't have any initial skills, any initial idea what exactly is in the edtech space. So it took quite a lot of getting used to, quite a lot of reading and understanding what the space was about. And I was just grateful for the fact that I had a very supportive team, most of whom were actually men, but they were very supportive, and they didn't, similar to Chiying's earlier story, where it was a new space for me as well, and I had to understand what it was about and so on. But the great thing about the team was that they were very supportive, and they were able to not patronize me, to give me room and time to grow and learn. And beyond that, even I had mentors who also helped me understand the space that I was in at that moment in time. So I would like to emphasize the fact that support systems necessary to help young women who are venturing into the tech space and even in general the STEM sector. They need the support system. So the support system can be in different ways. It can be your parent, it can be my friend, it can be those who I happen to be in the same class with, my peers, and so on. The support system can also be creating those spaces such as mentorship programs, fellowships, and things like that, where young women can actually feel capable to step into a new technology, a new sector, a new environment, without actually feeling incapable of having the fear of failure. And here I am right now, still part of the edtech startup, and also trying to encourage other young women to take the leap and step out. They never know what they're gonna discover along the way, what solutions they have hidden inside them. They will never know what the solutions can do to the world unless they actually step out and take that chance. So that's what I wanted to share with you all. And take a moment, take some time to support a woman who's in the STEM sector, who is just venturing into these new sectors. Take some time to support her, give her a little cheer, tell her to keep going. If she's somehow thinking that she should stop, tell her to keep going, because those are the people that we need in these spaces. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chisomo. It is great to acknowledge the importance of peer-to-peer collaboration in your company and how it is a foundational element for girls and women to empower themselves and build their own connections, not only in terms of educational and professional relationships, but also as interdisciplinary change makers, and to give you the chance to grow and learn. As a matter of fact, this listening to you all gives us a chance to grow and learn too. So it's and also not only to us, because I'm a grown-up a woman, older than you, but I can see also my kids when I listen to you, and how this relationship can be a peer-to-peer collaboration also, and an opportunity to learn and to grow together. So thank you so much. In this sense, we would love to hear next from Unhwa Lok, a youth leader at UNESCO SDG 4 Youth Network, who comes from Macau, China, and is the president of LECPA, an association that aims at building an inclusive society through cultural education, multicultural integration, and language learning, as well as engaging communities in dialogue that challenge cultural stereotypes. to tell us about LECPA and her journey in becoming an educational innovator, please let's hear from Onwa. Over to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure to share the floor with a group of inspiring girls and women today. My name is Yunhua Lok. I'm from Macau, China. I'm the president of the Macau Language and Cultural Promotion Association, LECPA, and I'm also a member of the UNESCO SDG for Youth Network. So passionate about languages and cultures, our association mainly works on bridging people of different communities together and informally providing cultural education so that we could help build a more inclusive society. To say upfront that I am not so sure whether I'm an innovator in the things that I've been doing, but I'm simply feeling the urge to find new solutions that could tackle the roots of problems and eventually help women and girls to help promote access to higher education opportunities for young women. The story that I'm going to share today is about engaging communities in dialogues that could hopefully challenge the gender roles that are holding back the development of girls and women in our society. The case of Macau is that after years of development, with the government investing a lot in education, higher education has been widely accepted as a means of having a better life and contributing to our society better, whether for boys or girls. However, I have noticed how girls' gender roles don't always associate with getting higher education, and that eventually affects the proportion of women in executive positions or leader roles. We associate the reasons to lie in some cultural values that generate gender stereotypes that most people in society, including women themselves, use to hold back girls and women from reaching their potential. For example, I've heard multiple times that boys or men are intimidated by girls or women because they achieve higher education, but not the way around. This thought had made females not pursue higher education, even if they are capable of, because they believe that it would become difficult for them to find a husband afterwards. Of course, stereotypes don't exist for girls or women only, but for boys or men too. And things are definitely improving nowadays, but sadly, they still exist and it has made us want to do something about it. How we could train the next generation and the generations after to challenge the social norms and stereotypes that hold back the development of stereotypes in our society. And that is a very important issue we want to address. As such, we have been organizing gender-themed events every year during March in celebration of International Women's Day, like today's event, to engage members of communities in topics that they rarely have chances to talk about. We invite members of the community to share their thoughts on the subject, hear others' thoughts, and learn about practices from other countries that could enhance their sensitivity of the subject and alter some previous thoughts that are deemed stereotypes. We cherish diversity and target not only those who support gender equality, but especially those who do not or who show no interest in the topic. So to find all these people, form a community and build trust among them is the first important thing for us to do in the first place. What we do is to regularly hold meetups that connect people in a casual setting. We find out that after some time, it becomes easier for us to motivate this group of people in joining our other events that could promote values, and some of these people did not believe in or were not interested about before. So focusing on how to bring people of diverse backgrounds together and sneaking in the values or concepts that we think could help enhance the inclusiveness of our society is the strategy that we have been using. We are hoping that if we could somehow influence these people to challenge gender stereotypes and actively support equitable actions that drive changes, the next generations or hopefully the people around them we will influence as well. And that's the small story that I want to share with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yunhua. I must say that I empathize a lot with the initiatives in LECPA, since I come from the cultural field, and I insist on the transversal role that cultural rights must play in the 2030 agenda, especially in connection to SDG 4, including the need to cherish diversity and transcend cultural norms and stereotypes that are limiting. So I guess one of the most urgent connections between what we are talking about here, between culture and education, is the right to education of migrants and refugees, which many times have to face those cultural stereotypes and language barriers to access education. So we have the pleasure to count today on the presence of Aisha Kuram, who is an African refugee based in Germany. She was pursuing her undergraduate studies in the Department of Law and Political Science at Kabul University, with 1 month to graduate when the Afghan government collapsed in August 2021. And she found her way back into higher education while being a young leader and advocate. So please, dear Aisha, we want to hear from you now. The floor is all yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good afternoon, depending where you are. I'm very much honored to be part of such an inspiring panel. And I actually love the way the order of speakers and how we started with the youngest innovator. And I guess that should be the spirit. My name is Aisha Khurram. I'm from Afghanistan. I was born as a refugee 2 years before 9/11. And as a child, I came back to my homeland, which was emerging back from the rebels of war and the decades-long violence that the country experienced. And as the city was slowly taking shape, hopes were sprouting all around. And a new life was beginning for the country, and we were all doing our best to make sure that the future would be different. As a little girl, after the Taliban regime collapsed in 2001, I started my school in Kabul, and after finishing my high school, I kept pursuing higher education at one of the biggest public universities in Afghanistan, studying law. Don't be surprised if I tell you that I've survived by chance during all those years. My school had been shattered multiple times during suicide bombing attacks, and my university was attacked by terrorists, in which dozens of students from my faculty, they have lost their life right in the midst of their lecture. And I remember returning to the class after each incident and sitting in a class in a place whose walls have been shattered and whose walls have been then painted white back to cover the red color of students' blood splashed on them. And then it was 2021. It was the last semester of my studies. While working on my thesis, fussing over our graduation day with my classmates, our discussion slowly changed from how to celebrate our graduation to where can we seek refuge and protection. And that was the time when the provinces started to collapse one after another. Today, 23 years after being born as a refugee, I became a refugee all over again. During the first few months of displacement, I was quite desperate. I turned every stone and I knocked every door just to get back to class. And I eventually found a way to proceed with my education. I found a scholarship at Bar College Berlin, where I study ethics and politics today. And it's one of the privileges, the very few privileges that refugee girls have, to find probably a way to get back on track, but that's very rare. And it's even rare for Afghan girls to have this opportunity today. And I want you to imagine suffocation for a moment. Imagine not being able to learn, to breathe, to exist. This is what it feels to be a woman in Afghanistan today. After the collapse of government last year, girls have been banned immediately from attending high school. While Taliban repeatedly, consistently promised that international community has to keep their support and engagement in Afghanistan, and they will lift the ban on high school and everything that they have announced regarding girls' education was temporary, they have just recently announced an indefinite ban on higher education for women all over the country. The ban on women's access to education happened less than 3 months after thousands of girls and women sat through the university entrance exam all across the country, with many hoping to pursue their dreams and goals in their favorite field of education. Now it's spring, it's March, it's the start of new academic year in Afghanistan. Today, schools and universities started all across the country with 0 girl at any of its classrooms, because Afghanistan is the only country on earth that has banned girls' education. Millions of Afghan women have been now confined to their homes, forced to live a life of deprivation, confinement, and isolation. And we are discussing innovation and gender equality in higher education at the time when Afghanistan is facing a gender apartheid, the kind of which we might have rarely seen in the history. However, last year, after the Taliban's ban on girls' access to high school, I, together with my Georgian friend and fellow youth delegate to UN, we have started an advocacy campaign to seek a fundamental, tangible response to the educational crisis for women in Afghanistan. After months of facilitating and organizing closed-door meetings between female students in Afghanistan and various UN agencies and universities, we have managed to provide online scholarships to a number of female students in 6 provinces of Afghanistan. And with these scholarships, they could not only attend these courses, but also receive credits and recognition for the time they were investing. The fact that we were able to provide these courses with 0 cost gave us hope for finding a feasible way to equip Afghan girls with the right resources and opportunities that will help them continue to complete their education through alternative means. The biggest barrier, however, as you can imagine, remains to be stable and equal access to internet. Therefore, the idea of establishing an e-learning center for women came into being, which was suggested by one of the students who benefited from these courses. For the past weeks and months, we lobbied and negotiated with international universities and UNESCO office in Afghanistan, and we demanded them to stand with us in our effort to provide online scholarships in a space that is safe with stable access to internet and good, stable connection. We have now agreement with universities in New York and Arizona, Bishkek and Berlin to provide courses for students in the field of international law, political science, computer science, healthcare, and students are now enrolled in Bennington College for the spring semester of 2023, pursuing their education from home. It's not an easy job. What we're doing today is a crime in the eyes of the regime. What we're doing is forbidden and dangerous. But as a girl who grew up and been educated in Afghanistan, I can tell you that the cost of not taking this risk is much higher than what we imagine. We took this initiative with the bare minimum connections that we had. But now imagine what big institutions can actually achieve if they have the willingness to make education accessible for women who are living in crisis situation and refugee camps. And the truth is, we are not doing half of what we could to find a solution to enable girls to return to their classrooms, because it is mostly assumed that educational crises, they are temporary. It is assumed that Afghanistan crisis could be relieved and resolved with food packages and temporary humanitarian aid. But these assumptions, they have turned women's life into indefinite suspensions. And so far, what we have learned throughout this initiative was that for young people in refugee camps and in crisis situations, especially for girls, the only pathway that will enable them to survive through the crisis and to rediscover a sense of stability and hope amidst all the chaos, it's important for them to have access to education. Technology and internet is one of the biggest advantages that we have today that we need to strategically employ in order to channel educational opportunities to those living in isolation. With our initiative, we have proven that it's possible. However, we need a transformed and up-to-date global system that can provide a sustainable and certified mechanism in order to ensure that this online education, teleeducation, is effectively implemented, and in places especially where students where girls cannot attend school, universities due to economic, political, or security constraints. And I'm sharing this not as a success story or a happy ending, but I'm trying to share one explicit message from Afghan girls. At the age of technological and technical advancement, we have no excuse to postpone addressing the injustice that is being done to women and girls in Afghanistan. I've started this initiative not only to help Afghan girls continue their education through alternative means, but to remind the world that educational crisis is an emergency, and we are all responsible to ensure that educated generation everywhere, and especially today in Afghanistan, the young girls who are the only hope for a democratic Afghanistan, that they should be preserved. And now I call upon you to stand with us in our fight for justice and equality. I call upon you to use everything in your power to reverse the ban on girls' education in Afghanistan. And I think it's here and today that we have to take a stance and fight our way to finding a solution that help girls in isolation to return to their classrooms, because educational crisis is an emergency, and today more than ever, it should be treated as one. Thank you very much.
Yes, really proud of Aisha too. Thank you, Aisha, for opening up, speaking up, telling us your story, and for being an activist for girls and women from Afghanistan. And not only for that, but for actually finding strategies to provide them with studying opportunities, even when it's denied as if it were a crime, because we have to say it, education cannot be a crime. It is not a crime. And it is about lives. It's not about curriculum, as you shared. It is about girls and women having the opportunity to dream and to pursue their own goals and life journey. So yeah, thank you very much for everything you shared with us. Our next storyteller also connects her own life circumstances with her work as an educational advocate and innovator. It's really, really compelling to hear how everyone here has their own personal stories connected to their advocacy. So we are going to hear next from Rachel Kalinachi from Uganda. She's the part of the national organization, which is called Integrated Disabled Women's Activities in her country, and an active advocate for the rights of girls and women with disability from community to global levels. So to that end, she has innovated in many ways, for example, through peer-to-peer education about sexual and reproductive health and menstrual health, and many other ways that she will share with us with her own voice. So please, Rachel, the floor is all yours to share your story.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone. I'm so excited to be at this great session. I'm learning a lot, and I hope to learn from you all. I want to tell you something very small to share with you my story. But first, in order for anyone to be successful in this world, especially this dynamic and challenging world, one has to be innovative. And when I talk of innovative, it does not exclude education. Literally, if you really want to register a success story in education, you must be innovative. It's upon this regard that I'm here to share with you my experience, and you learn from it. Growing up as a girl with a disability, my education wasn't small. It wasn't on a silver plate. It had a lot of challenges ranging from discriminations, both from my teachers and then students, fellow students, segregations based on my disability. The learning environment itself wasn't accessible for me. And indeed, that was the same challenge happening to my other fellow girls and young women having disabilities. They try to put into place some measures to address the challenges, but sincerely speaking, very little or small success was registered. I looked at this particular situation, I thought hard and came up with something very new and different and unique that would enable not only me as an individual, but other girls and young women who are going through the same challenges, that would enable us have a free and inclusive learning environment, free from any other discriminations. So it was during that time that I contested and became a student leader in my university. And I was a student leader for special abilities. So during my term in office, I spearheaded the formation of an association of students with disabilities in my university. And this was an important space for us to keep pushing for our rights, since we knew we were now together fighting towards a common cause. So I created badges with a slogan, "Include Me Too," which we would wear on the campus compound. And this was for purposes of including us in the education system and making education accessible for all of us. Still to add on that, as a leader still, I went ahead and lobbied for some scholarships and assistive devices for students with disabilities from Ministry of Gender, Labor and Social Development. And indeed, they were really able to support us with some scholarships, especially for girls, because they were on the verge of dropping out of school. Were able to stay in school. They increased the government loan scheme slots for girls and young women with disabilities. They also gave us some wheelchairs to enable girls and young women with disabilities easily access classrooms or library. And my innovative ways and approaches are really greatly and positively impacted the entire university, because it was evident that there was reduced discrimination. We were now treated with dignity, especially the girls who were being discriminated more than their counterparts who were males, who were being treated with dignity. And I personally remember being greeted. At times I would be greeted by 20 different people in a day. Hey Rachel, how are you? So it made us have a nice space and a free space to interact. We all walked freely, we did our things freely. So the atmosphere really became conducive for us and all other marginalized groups. And as I conclude, I want to assure you that there are some solutions that are put in place to address challenges in schools. But I want to assure you that nothing comes on a silver plate. You really have to work hard, be resourceful, be innovative, and above all, come up with different ways to mantle and stand for better solutions. Thank you so much. I hope I inspire you. I hope your minds and hearts have been reignited and rejuvenated to start something new in your education too. Thank you so much. Over to the next presenter.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Thank you. We are really glad that you mentioned at the beginning of your presentation how innovation actually means different things in different contexts and for different people, and that getting through education sometimes is innovative in itself, especially for girls and women who have disabilities and have to face biases and stereotypes and surpass them to actually get through their education. So yeah, and your story also has important examples that technology must actually be at the service of people and not the other way around. So thank you for your words. And I'll give the floor to Sarah to present our next speaker. Please, Sarah.
Thanks, Julia. I'm going to switch to Spanish now for our next speaker. Conectar lo global con lo local, aportar tecnología e innovación para servir a las comunidades y localizar la agenda de los ODS también está en sintonía con el trabajo de Juliana Sofía Riaño, nuestra próxima narradora. Sofía es el punto focal de política educativa de la red de jóvenes ODS 4 de la UNESCO y actualmente coordina el Centro Ensenada aplicando la agenda de los ODS en su ciudad natal, Ensenada, México. Por favor, Sofía, cuéntanos tu historia y cómo se conecta con el aprendizaje innovador y la transformación de la educación. Tienes la palabra. Bienvenida.
Muchas gracias, Sara. Continuaré también en español. Antes de iniciar con mi historia, quiero agradecerte, Aisha, por tus palabras que me han movido profundamente y quisiera invitar a que tengamos presente el privilegio de poder contar nuestras historias aquí y en tantos otros espacios. Al privilegio que niñas y mujeres de Colombia y México, mis países de origen, tal vez no han tenido o tendrán por la violencia que nos aterroriza y mata en nuestros territorios, bien sea por el conflicto armado en Colombia o por las espeluznantes cifras de 10 feminicidios al día en México. Pasando a mi historia. Mis padres hacen parte del grupo de personas cuyas creencias y discursos frente a las dificultades y grandes esfuerzos que se pueden presentar para acceder a una educación de calidad en América Latina están alineados con conocidas frases como la educación es la mejor herencia que te podemos dar, ustedes, mi hermano y yo, son nuestra mejor inversión y pase lo que pase en tu vida, nadie te puede quitar tu educación. Esta visión de mis padres hacia la educación ha hecho que por un lado haya tenido muchas oportunidades de formación enriquecedoras desde temprana edad, me ha impulsado enormemente para alcanzar oportunidades y agradezco profundamente sus esfuerzos, pero también como una de las primeras mujeres en mi familia en acceder a distintas oportunidades educativas en la educación superior, me he vuelto gradualmente consciente que por ello, desde pequeña, me autogeneré una presión altísima para cumplir, aprovechar al máximo y hacer bien mi trabajo porque sabía los esfuerzos económicos que mis padres hacían para que yo pudiera acceder a todas mis oportunidades de estudio, bien sea en el colegio o en mis clases extracurriculares, que en mi caso fueron lenguas, música y danza. Al acercarme a finalizar mis estudios de bachillerato, inicié mi primer acercamiento a uno de los procesos innovadores más provechosos y transformadores que la educación superior me ha dado a lo largo de mi paso por universidades. Ayudar a conocerme, a cuestionarme, a manejar mis emociones, a identificar qué habilidades poseo, qué quiero hacer con ellas y cómo las puedo poner al servicio de la sociedad que quiero para mis entornos. Ha sido un proceso de gran incertidumbre, de aprender sobre mis capacidades y también mis limitaciones, tras varias caídas que me han también forzado a pausar y aprender que poner mi bienestar y salud mental como prioridad, hoy y siempre, para alcanzar mis aspiraciones y objetivos profesionales y personales, son siempre la mejor decisión. Gracias a mi paso por la universidad, pude reconocer que la innovación también se encuentra en los procesos para conocerse a uno mismo y generar confianza en sí mismo. Personalmente, a entender gradualmente que mi bienestar depende en gran medida de hacer tiempo para mis espacios creativos. Gracias a ellos soy también quien soy en el ámbito académico. El haberme formado como lingüista aplicada en la enseñanza de lenguas modernas, es decir, como profesora, también me dio herramientas para reflexionar constantemente sobre mis creencias, prácticas y cómo mejorarlas. Pero el haber sido parte de comunidades de investigación de la mano de profesores de mi facultad, que demostraron que con mi corta experiencia, yo también podía aportar de forma significativa en investigaciones y ser parte de varias asociaciones estudiantiles, artísticas y académicas, fueron determinantes para poder apoyarnos mutuamente con los compañeros en nuestras dificultades y animarnos en nuestros procesos. Así que, para todas las niñas y jóvenes, cuestionándose su lugar y sus habilidades en el colegio, en su proceso para acceder a la educación superior o ya en la educación superior, quisiera decirles que si yo pasé de ser una niña de primaria que hablaba poquito y sudaba de miedo por levantar la mano para responder a la pregunta que los profesores nos hacían en clase, y recientemente fui elegida para ser parte de un programa de jóvenes líderes de América Latina para la transformación de nuestros sistemas educativos en la región. Tú que has tenido un recorrido similar al mío o miedos similares a los míos, también puedes abrir las puertas que deseas abrir y no estás sola en tu camino. William Wordsworth dijo una vez que la poesía es el aliento y espíritu más fino de todo conocimiento. Pero para cerrar, me quedo con la versión modificada a esta frase de Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, que dice: contar historias es el aliento y espíritu más fino de todo conocimiento. Así que sigamos contando nuestras historias. Muchas gracias por su atención.
Gracias, Sofía. Muchas gracias por contar tu historia y además recordarnos la importancia de las historias personales en nuestra vida, en nuestro desarrollo profesional. Y además, qué increíble cómo podemos crecer, superar la inseguridad y, como en tu caso, convertirnos en líderes. Así que muchas gracias por recordarnos eso, que podemos superar los miedos y sacar de ellos la fuerza para convertirnos en modelos a seguir para otras personas, ¿no? Y además, la historia familiar, la cultura, que es tan variada en tu caso, además, y en muchos casos, y cómo eso está profundamente arraigado en el trabajo individual y colectivo, cómo el aprendizaje entre iguales, cómo es el aprendizaje entre iguales y los proyectos y la importancia de la colaboración social en ellos. Eso también implica nuevos y diferenciados roles para profesores, no solo como mentores, sino también como aprendices. Entonces, gracias por compartir tu experiencia con nosotros. Y ahora cambio a inglés para invitar a nuestra próxima participante. A focus on teachers is precisely one of the main goals in the work of Abby Ashaikun, our next storyteller. Abby is the Executive Director of WAMMT Cares, an organization that provides educational opportunities and empowerment for teachers from the most vulnerable and under-resourced communities around the world, who are trained to provide inclusive and gender-responsive education to students, especially girls around the world. Abby, the floor is all yours to share your story.
Thank you so much, Sarah. As Sarah said, I'm Abby, and I am representing Nigeria, but not just Nigeria, I'm representing all of Africa. A lot of the teachers that we work with are especially in sub-Saharan Africa. Have you all ever had a teacher that has made an influence in your lives, that has shaped who you are today and where you want to be? That's the hope and dream of WAMMT Cares, is to provide those skills and tools necessary for teachers and as well as educators. So we have teachers who are in the 9-to-5 classroom, and then we have educators who are providing some form of education to children and students in the most vulnerable parts of the world. For me personally, looking at myself and what I've been able to accomplish, I've been privileged that my parents, my dad, saw that there was an opportunity for me to go to school, to have a higher learning. I was able to go to college in Canada. I have 2 master's degrees, and they have always pushed me to do better. And so I wanted to be able to give back, but I saw an opportunity with teachers, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, not having the tools necessary to be able to develop themselves, and at the end of the day, providing quality education to our children. And this is where WAMMT Cares comes up. WAMMT Cares is connected to 1 Million Teachers, which is an ed tech startup, which provides the tools necessary for teachers to really continue their professional development across their profession. And so we provide lifetime innovative tools using technology too as well to ensure that teachers, and again, this is free lifetime access, can continue to get the continuous development programs that they need to be able to empower themselves And also the most important and critical part of it is to provide that quality education that our children need, that our girls need. Part of the programs that they also get is on gender responsiveness and sensitization. So how do you, teachers are in the community, especially in the most marginalized communities, they are part of the community. And so if you have a community like in the northeastern part of Nigeria, where education, formal education or Western education is almost forbidden, how do you, as a teacher, as a leader, are able to integrate yourself into the community and work with the community leaders and with the parents to make sure these girls are able to go to school? So that's part of some of the programs that we use to develop the teachers, to give them those necessary tools to be able to be successful in their profession. And in the process of doing that, we've been able to partner with the Northeast Children's Trust, which is in the northeastern part of Nigeria, where they're helping students who have been displaced because of the insurgency. And they come from the camps, from the IDP camps, and they come into this, I don't even know what word to use to call this learning center, but it's a very inclusive learning center, a haven, a space for both boys and girls to be who they are, to rehabilitate them from the war. A lot of them have lost families and siblings and parents, and to reintegrate them back into society, and also to be able to bring, their communities together with them to ensure that, they do thrive in society, because every child matters in this world, and no child should feel underappreciated. And same thing with our teachers. Our teachers are the backbone of our society, and no teacher should feel underappreciated. And without teachers, we cannot have a thriving economy. And so this is our dream, our goal, our mission, to ensure that teachers are valued in society, and that value then transcends to our children, so that they feel motivated, they feel empowered, they see themselves in the teachers, both male and female teachers, and that they can go on into higher education and learning. And again, we're using technology as part of our innovation to ensure that these teachers and girls and students are able to reach higher and do better than we ever imagined that they could do. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Abby. Thanks for reminding us the importance of supporting teachers, and for reminding us also that every children matters, and also every children and every teacher matters in order to give the best for the most needed communities. So it is very encouraging to know that the 1-8MT transnational network of teachers are actually working worldwide, and right now as multipliers and front runners in innovative learning and transforming education. Our last storyteller today, Professor Maha Mira, is unable to join us due to connection issues. Another reminder to us that not everyone has the privilege to have access to reliable digital tools. However, her work to promote artificial intelligence among girls and women, and to conduct research in partnership with the industrial world attracts more PhD students, and especially female students, in the field of artificial intelligence. And this has led light to a lot of women and girls in STEM, and the inspiration continues. So on this note, we would like to thank to all our storytellers for finding time to be here today and inspire us all with their perspectives on innovative education, and also their connection to their own personal stories.
Yes.
Over to you, Julia.
Yes, Sarah, dear all. I hope you are all feeling as moved and instigated as I truly am. I have so many things inside my head right now. I'm sure that you are also feeling a little bit overwhelmed about everything we have just heard about and felt too, because it's not only about rationalizing everything, but also feeling connected to your stories. So at this point, after finishing with our invitees or storytellers, we would like to invite girls and women from the audience to share their stories too, if they are feeling comfortable and eager to participate. So I just kindly ask that anyone wishing to participate limits their lines, their words to 3 minutes, so more people can join the conversation. And you can just raise your hand and we will call you by your name, and then you can open your mic and video. And those who are not able to speak due to time constraints, we invite you to share your stories through the chat, and also the survey that we have on ESL on innovative learning. So I already have 3 hands raised, I guess. Let me see. Yes. So I'll invite them in order as they appear for me here. The first one I see is, I'm sorry if I pronounce it badly, you can then correct me, please, is Ihsanat Suleiman. Please, you have the floor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ihsanat Suleiman. I worked at the Northeast Children Trust. Just as the last speaker, Ms. Abby, has said a little bit of our organization, I am a teacher here and I am the pastoral head of the pastoral unit that I take care of the children's guardian and counseling issues. I work here in a very beautiful environment where the place was founded by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, because of the insurgency that happened at our place, the northeastern part of Nigeria, the famous Boko Haram insurgency that is all over worldwide. So children were brought to us. I would like so much to share my story of how innovation takes place in our part of the country here, and how a place that was covered by insurgency and there wasn't hope for many as schooling now become a heaven for many people. So the story I want to share is that children were brought to us from different parts of the country or different part of the state where the insurgency was affected. And people from different ethnicity, from different background, of different groups, ages, were brought to us. And these are type of people that have not have any experience of the four walls of the classroom, or may have been into some carefree public schools, now found themselves in a place where they just need to have their life go with education. So looking at the type of people that were brought to us, we knew that there were a lot for us to do. So we just went back to the drawing board. We just knew that we had a lot. So we brainstormed, and after a lot of research and a lot of work as to how we can manage these children and how to overcome the challenge that was at hand into putting these children into classrooms at different levels, we came up with something we named Roadmap to Succeeders. So we map these children on 3 phases. The first phase was because we need them to stabilize and adapt to the environment that they were brought in. We gave them 100% play for some weeks for them to stabilize and get normalized and have those traumas off their head, although we knew it wasn't something they can do just within weeks. But we were sure that with the engagement and the different type of therapies that we introduced to them as at then could stabilize them and make them adapt to the environment, thereby having enough chances for them to concentrate and get what they needed to get as per learning. So the second phase came in as in 70-30, 70% play and then 30% academics. And academics in such a way that it was playful, it was all the academic related stuff that we have introduced them to was a kind of educational materials, board games, introduce what we call e-readings, plays, short educational movies, and what have you. Then came the third stage, which was 50-50. So we had to give them education, and we just had to do it in a fun way. So we engaged them academically 50%, and we engaged them in the play and whatever method the other percent, up until we reached a situation where we needed all of them to at least read, write, comprehend, and critique in the English language, which was the paramount before anyone in this part of the country to start at least their educational journey. They need to understand English. So we need them to read, write, comprehend, and critique. So we concentrated on the program of Jolly Phonics, which all the teachers were trained, and we immediately went into action. Then came the reading of the one-liner books, then with the e-reading, where we introduced to them tabs they will be reading with, and then we'll be monitoring them from time to time, wherever we got any chance, we don't just let them play and do all stuff. So we make sure all that play and whatever we engage them in was centered into learning and making them adapt to their new environment and grabbing all they needed to get for their academic development. Then the use of smartboard, which they loved so very much. It gave them a sense of belonging, and they knew that this was just it. We are in, and we are in for learning for real. So the use of smartboard and all the audiovisual gadgets we could put our hands on was something that ignited their enthusiasm and made them really ready for it. So STEM education was one vital part that we knew we can't miss. So we brought them into introduction to computer, all the e-reading program, then came the programming, and then the coding classes. And if you see our children, some children came here without knowing ABC. But if you see how these children have developed and grown up into beautiful and confident future adults, you will be surprised, and it will be, it's a kind of marvelous and a very wonderful experience that we have. So all that the message I need to share with you all is that give them what they need and they will create miracles. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Isanat. Next in my list, I have Mariam Masha. Please, the floor is yours to share your story. Thank you, Mariam.
Thank you so much. And I'd say thank you for having me on this platform with all the wonderful women here. And the stories that you share are amazing and very inspiring. I work in the same place with Isanat, so I wouldn't go too much into, she's given us a bit of what we have been able to achieve. I just wanted to share with you just in terms of the context. And this kind of speaks to what Aisha was sharing, against her own background. You know, when you look at a place like the Northeast, where we've had the Boko Haram insurgency since about 2009, and when you look at it, it's not, it's where you have war, you have health and education, all these other things as collateral damage. But in this instance, what you have is an intentional and deliberate attack on education. So the message is very simple, very loud, and very clear. You send your children to school, particularly your girls. We will abduct them, we will kill them, we will rape them, and they will not be allowed to go to school. And so against that context, it's very difficult to now be encouraged and to be encouraged to be bold enough to go against that. And that's the context in which we're working. And against that also is the fact that even before we had the insurgency, we'd had multidimensional crises of social development, health, education, very poor indices. So it's really sitting on a keg of like gunpowder, but it's within that context that we're able to work with what is old and what exists therein, and what opportunities do we see? So going from what the obstacle is. So if it's in the name of Islam, people are pushing no education for girls, no education. We go back to what does the message of Islam actually say? Then use that as the way. And that's what we've done largely in everything that we've done in terms of being innovative socially in that particular environment. So everything from even power, where we've had to harness the power of sunlight to power ourselves in there. It's basically looking at what the obstacle is, what is obtainable in our natural environment, and how can we use that to create an environment where children can learn, children can thrive. So in a way, it touches on almost everything everybody here has spoken about today. And you pull that up into this environment where there is conflict, where there is crisis, and being able to use that to make it possible for girls to have an education. And while we may not be at the point of equality, we are definitely making progress. With every girl that comes in, 2 more girls want to come in the next year, 2 more girls want to come in the next year. And for us, that is progress. And I'll quickly end by sharing a story of one of our own girls in her own words. Interestingly, her name is Aisha, and her story is this. Aisha is 9 years old, by the way. She came to us when she was 5. And she said, my father was killed during the insurgency in Gaza, and my mother and I were running to safety. We were separated. I ended up staying in Bakassi camp with a caregiver who is my namesake. When I went to visit her during the holidays, she was happy because I've learned so many things at the center, and now I'm respectful. I love the way they teach me things here: English, math, basic science, spellings, and others. I've also learned not to be greedy, because greedy does not allow people to get what they should get. I believe I can do anything, and I can do anything I want and learn new things too. I want to be a nurse, like my auntie in Damaturu, who named her daughter Aisha. I want to be a nurse to take care of sick people. And we hope we will be able to help her fulfill her dreams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariam. If you allow me, I will just switch to Spanish a little bit, porque me hace muy feliz invitar ahora a hablar a Brianda Esmeralda desde México. Por favor, Brianda.
Hola, pues buenos días acá desde México, desde Tamaulipas, y bueno, qué gusto estar escuchando todas estas historias que de verdad enriquecen el trabajo que hacemos desde cada uno de nuestros espacios. Y bueno, me presento nuevamente. Yo vivo, para contextualizar mi participación, en la frontera, en Tamaulipas, en México. Las circunstancias son de migración, de inseguridad, del crimen organizado, y bueno, en ese contexto, parte de mi trabajo es generar talleres con infancias y adolescencias, y en ese proceso de generar talleres creo que tengo algo importante que comentar en este espacio. Y es que justamente México tiene un sistema de educación pues muy duro, ¿no? Un sistema, es un bloque que estamos intentando pues hacerle sus pequeños orificios para entrar con otras ideas que no sean adultocéntricas y que no sean sin perspectiva de infancias, porque tenemos una población infantil que está afectada, por supuesto, contexto COVID, contexto inseguridad, y además con algunos temas de crisis, con temas de pobreza. Tenemos muchas desigualdades, incluso dentro de nuestro propio territorio. Ahí llegamos nosotros con talleres, somos pocas las personas que lo hacemos, pero llegamos con talleres, y a partir de que empezamos a abrir esos espacios en el sistema educativo, generamos talleres de participación libre con las infancias y adolescencias, y ahí es donde se encuentra la realidad es que el sistema de educación no logra identificar, incluso estando en el día a día, los docentes frente a grupo no logran descifrar, o más bien a lo mejor no lo quieren ver, pero existen desigualdades, existen en el tema de género, en el tema de las niñas sobre todo, pues ya roles de género que están ya ellas desarrollando, incluso que no nos permite que las políticas públicas que se están implementando lleguen y tengamos resultados, ¿no? Resultados no los vemos, porque ahí en la población de infancia y adolescencia es donde está la problemática y donde no se puede llegar si no es con una política que conozca las voces de la chica. Para ejemplificar mejor de lo que estoy hablando, hacemos una pregunta en uno de los talleres, y es: ¿qué haces en tus tiempos libres como niña? Y en una comunidad rural de nuestro estado de Tamaulipas, una niña nos dibuja a una niña cargando una bebé, y la respuesta es: cuidar a mis hermanas. Su tiempo libre como niña es cuidar a sus hermanas más pequeñas porque su mamá trabaja, porque su papá se fue a trabajar al extranjero, incluso por el río, porque aquí cruzan por este lado, por el río Bravo. No se sabe del papá, ella está a cargo de las hermanas más pequeños porque es una forma de subsistir al día a día, y esa niña, si hacemos una comparación en la escuela, ¿no? Con los docentes, esa niña presenta inasistencia regularmente 2, 3 veces por semana. Esa niña va quedando en un sesgo de desigualdad, pero el sistema educativo lo tiene ahí. Sin embargo, los pequeños espacios de participación no permiten identificarlo, o más bien se queda en un expediente y no va más allá. Lo que hemos estado nosotros identificando como una oportunidad, incluso vamos a requerir de mayor trabajo, es que necesitamos generar, incluso con organizaciones civiles que son la parte fuerte, seguir generando estos talleres de participación hasta llevar estos resultados al Estado mexicano, a quien decide y toma las decisiones de las políticas, para que logre ser más flexible el sistema educativo y que sea una parte desde donde se encuentren y se identifiquen las desigualdades. Porque si bien cada cambio de administración en el Estado mexicano trata de cambiar las formas del sistema educativo, siempre son desde la parte adultocéntrica, sin ver las realidades de las infancias y adolescencias. Y bueno, esa es mi participación y muchas gracias por escucharme.
Thank you, Brianda, and thank you all for sharing your enriching stories and joining our conversation and bringing new perspectives on education, on the struggles and the opportunities for girls and women in education, and especially in transforming education and innovative learning. Also, on top of what has been shared here on the spot, we also have received many stories from girls and women who have written to us and joined the media campaign. And I would like to invite now Miss Claudia, who is ESALC's communication specialist, to take the floor and talk a little bit about this social media campaign and the stories we received. Thank you. To you, Claudia.
Hi, everyone. It's been so inspiring to hearing from you. It's really been a special session for us. And well, I'm honored to share some voices from female innovators who have expressed their reflections and stories on innovative education. And finding some synergies among these expressions, we have identified. First, the interest in innovative learning can bring bigger impacts. As one of the participants quoted, from self-contextualized learning to creating startups across sectors, every time I innovate something, I feel that I have also learned something new, which I wasn't able to do so if I did not challenge myself. Second, before using an innovative tool or technique, identifying what to learn and what are the specific goals can help choose the most effective tools and techniques to accommodate personal needs. And third, innovative tools and techniques that have contributed to improve learning has a big range. It can be as a techie, as gamification, virtual and augmented reality, or social, as personalized learning and project-based learning. So I'm going to share also stories that have been sent to us through the chat and through our mail. I'm going to start with Yvonne Vasquez from Puerto Rico, and I'm going to read it in Spanish. Yo, mujer criada en una isla del Caribe con todas las oportunidades, por la condición política de Puerto Rico, con los beneficios de estudiar gratuitamente y continuar estudios becada por el gobierno federal norteamericano, escucho las dificultades y cada día admiro más la tenacidad, el deseo de progreso. En Puerto Rico, la mayoría de las universidades tienen una matrícula femenina. Sin embargo, las oportunidades de laborar en condiciones iguales a los varones sigue siendo un gran obstáculo. Continuamos viviendo bajo el techo de cristal y el temor del progreso femenino. Este espacio provee la plataforma en esta significativa semana de ver la continuidad de las inequidades y poder continuar proveyendo espacios de desarrollo para las niñas, jóvenes y mujeres en cada uno de los países del mundo. Estupenda reflexión. Y ahora continúo con otro comentario enviado por Cintia Rudas de Perú. En cada país existe una diversidad de circunstancias y las dificultades son distintas en cada región, en cada departamento, distrito, provincia, caserío, centro, poblado y comunidad. Me encantaría contar mi historia de ser una persona de provincia de clase baja y hoy haber obtenido uno de los cargos más altos en mi país. Y sé, por mi versión personal, que la pobreza no es un límite para ser profesional o surgir en la vida. Vamos, niñas, mujeres jóvenes y mujeres, sí se puede. So very inspiring. Now I'm going to change to English to continue sharing some of the stories we've got. Okay, in Peru, for example, we have a young female innovator sharing with us that she has created an interactive games with crafts and performing arts. Performances were created according to the given theme, involving participants in movement and action games, integrating crafts tasks such as assembling puzzles, dominoes, paintings, songs that can make the public participate and demonstrate and exhibit the works they have done. Interesting. And another experience comes from Cameroon. In Cameroon, the incorporation of ICT has made a job possible for postgraduates. She quoted that, with the use of a powerful, fast Android equipment, this tool added a fairly fast internet connection for the realization of her daily activities, because she's a volunteer and holds an important position of responsibility that requires time and availability for things to move forward. And that tool allowed her to obtain the confidence of her superiors as part of the rendering of the tasks they entrust her, and also allowed her to improve her English language level. And another one comes from China. Some female learners have brought site visits into their learning. And by site visit, it can mean both physically and virtually. For example, in a poetry course, she has led students to visit the former residence of the poet. Virtually, she has searched for videos according to content she needs to know, filtering out some viewing and learning with higher views, and then summarizing the learning content by herself. This method can be used to learn a variety of cultural knowledge or to learn various skills. Of course, there are also challenges that female innovators have encountered on their way moving forward with the innovative ideas. For example, first, regulations. Some higher education institutions restrain these basic topic selections for passing the academic censorship and ensuring the graduation rate, which means the innovative ideas may be blocked. And the second, accessibility measurement. In certain scenarios where basic rights to higher education is not secured, as a social worker quoted, access to higher education for young women with disabilities is still a challenge. It is harder to employ innovation in learning, as innovation needs to first take place to address basic rights. And storytellers and audience have stressed the importance of girls and women's innovations to significant impact in the progress and change. We have listened to these girls and women who defy gender norms and overcome barriers to education, particularly in the STEM fields. However, there were also discussions about the persistent challenges and barriers such as social norms, stereotypes, and the gender digital divide. Well, I think we have more interventions, and we promise you will do something with that, maybe a blog with all of them, and perhaps some other ways of sharing these stories that are really, really important to all of us. Thank you. Back to you, Sarah.
Thanks, Claudia, for sharing the stories of our audience and from our campaign. As we are coming closer to an end of this Fireside Chat, Julia, would you like to share some activities to celebrate women and girls and innovative learning?
Yes, Sarah, thank you. Yes, like the introductory activity we have done together at the beginning through Menti. We would like to do two more, actually, just two, so we can leave. I don't know. Sometimes we feel so alone on educational learning, and today I guess it was a reminder that a sense of companionship and empowerment among ourselves is really important, and it has many ways that it can be done: mentoring, peer-to-peer learning, role modeling, collaborative learning, social engagement. So considering our different educational and social realities, we are actually already transforming education, and we have thought about sharing as a final message to ourselves and to the ones that are watching us through Facebook as well, two main messages. One would be about support and the other advice. So let's proceed with the first one. If we may share the screen now, and you can access Menti again either by going on menti.com and putting the code, or scanning the QR code on your telephones. So the first question would be the one I mentioned about support. Considering our different contextual and social realities, what support do we need, or do you need, to engage in innovative learning? What are the main messages as well from support needed to different communities and social scenarios to get access to innovative learning? I'll leave you with it for a little bit. Sorry, I guess the answers are not appearing on the screen as we thought they would. Some things in technological innovation not always work as we wish, but we will be sure to share some of the answers with you after the event and publicize everything on our UNESCO EDUC's official pages. Next question would be about changing a little bit the focus from support to advice. Oh, now I see support. Great. So what are the messages from our participants on support? Let's see. Can you see it? I lost it. Here they are. Let's see. Meaningful needs-based capacity building, infrastructure, exchange scholarships, technology, creative and collaboration spaces, tecnología y arte, institutional support, net connection, financing for grassroots organizations, safe platforms for exchanging ideas, technological infrastructure are in place to provide stable connect. Well, there are so many things in just a few words. Thank you very much for sharing your answers. We'll take them into consideration. And as I said before, please be connected to our social media and official pages so you are in touch with the next steps in our project. And the second one, as we mentioned before, would be advice. What we would leave as message to girls and women watching us and to ourselves participating together for next steps. Have two answers by now. Could we go back a little bit to the QR code? Thanks. Let's check on the answers. Trust your power, go for whatever is on your mind. University is a huge laboratory. Start and never lose focus, to use creativity to follow their dreams. Be bold, be brave, be fearless. I love this one. I really hope you all are really inspired as I am. I'm really sorry about the tech issues we have encountered, but I'm sure that from our storytellers, both the invitees and the audience participation, we are all really grateful for what we have learned and shared today. And I would like to give the floor back to Sarah so she can proceed with the final moments of our fireside chat. Thanks,
Thank
Sarah.
you, Julia. Thank you, Julia, for the activity. Looking forward collectively in innovative education, we need boosters in our motivation, empowerment, and celebration. So I will give this very important yet job to Cabello, whose interest in gender and cultural representation issues led her to conduct research on media portrayals of women in the Botswana military during her studies, to volunteer for various feminist organizations in Nigeria and Botswana promoting SDG 5 causes, and to join UN Women in 2021 as an executive analyst in the Office of the Executive Director, and currently as an internal communications officer. So we pass the floor to you now, Cabello.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for having joined us for today's inspiring and insightful fireside chat. I'm Cabello, and I'm from Botswana, as mentioned, and I currently work as a UN International Volunteer Specialist in internal communications at UN Women headquarters in New York City. So as we conclude our fireside chat, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to our amazing storytellers and our attendees for their insightful and valuable perspectives. Your stories about impact and innovative ideas demonstrate that achieving gender equality still requires much work, but that digital education and tech can move the world forward. Your efforts have demonstrated resilience, creativity, and innovative thinking to ensure that women and girls in your communities have access to innovative education, which is grounded on the SDG principle that leave no one behind. Now, this year's International Women's Day theme is Digital Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality, and it recognizes and celebrates women and girls like you who are championing the advancement of transformative technology and digital education. So join us this 8th March as UN Women. We are calling on governments, activists, and the private sector alike to power on in our efforts to make the digital world safer, more inclusive, and more equitable. It is essential to continue supporting and amplifying young girls and women's voices in innovation tech and digital education, as been discussed, creating spaces and opportunities for them such as the Fire Chat, the space, to share ideas, collaborate, and lead, as well as valuing and recognizing their contributions is quite vital. So in today's Fire Chat, we were reminded of how crucial it is to critically reflect on gender inequalities, the stereotypes, and the structural causes to make any form of agency relevant for social change. It is crucial that we discuss these inequalities directly and focus on where they originate. And I think education is the key to changing the mindsets and conditions that force girls into marriage or leave women of any age with no skills to earn a decent living. Such spaces as this Fireside Chat, they help us identify how to transform education and reimagine how students learn. We also have learned that what approaches we are used to make education more gender responsive and inclusive. For tech and innovation to accelerate actions that address global inequalities and marginalization, especially those in developing countries, the teaching and learning processes should be transformative. They should be based on an extended scope of learning objectives that stress behavioral change. The concept of learning should extend beyond school. In addition to one of our storytellers, Juliana's point on the differentiated roles of teachers, I believe the role of parents, the community, and the broad-based stakeholders must also be recognized in a congruent framework. An education system that recognizes girl voices and allows meaningful participation, it contributes to girls' and women's empowerment. So how can we then encourage this innovative learning practice? Access to resources, safe and inclusive learning environments, supportive communicators, just to mention a few. So providing a supportive and inclusive learning environment that fosters creativity, collaboration, and exploration can empower girls and women to engage in innovative learning. This would enable them to pursue their passions and interests. Education is a human right and an essential tool for achieving equality, development, and peace. For me, it has catapulted me to different parts of the world, pursuing my education, my higher education in China, because of scholarships that were granted, opportunities that were availed to young Botswana. So my advice to young girls and women is to feel the fear and do it anyway, and continue growing into uncharted territories and rewriting your story. Thank you so much for the organizers for this Fireside Chat. I've learned so much of the young women across the world who are doing amazing work. Thank you.
Thank you, Cobelo, for your inspiring work. Thanks so much for being part of the event and for the closing of the event. It is perfect to close with you, with your words and your inspiration. And now I'm going to switch to Spanish to remind the audience of the events we have this week. Les recordamos que UNESCO y ESALC organiza otros 2 eventos sobre la mujer y la educación superior. El 8 de marzo, abordando la violencia contra las mujeres en las instituciones de educación superior, donde expertos debatirán sobre el tema y compartirán algunos datos preliminares de una encuesta piloto regional realizada para evaluar la violencia contra las mujeres en las instituciones de América Latina y el Caribe. Al día siguiente, el 9 de marzo, un seminario en línea titulado La participación de la mujer en la enseñanza superior en África Meridional, comprender el escenario regional, servirá para analizar los resultados de una encuesta hecha en 9 países para determinar el papel que desempeñan actualmente las mujeres en la educación superior en los sistemas educativos. Todos los detalles los tienen en pantalla, si escanean en los QR que compartió nuestra colega Julia, y también pueden ser consultados en nuestro sitio web y en nuestras cuentas de redes sociales. Antes de irnos, por favor, abran las cámaras para hacer una foto de grupo. Y bueno, esperamos que esta sea el primero de muchos encuentros para hablar de los temas que nos reúnen hoy y que nos mueven en el campo de la educación superior y desde una mirada de género. Y despedirnos de esta sesión maravillosa sin antes agradecer a las personas que compartieron sus historias. Muchísimas gracias y será hasta nuestros próximos eventos.